Well, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, because you're, I'm going to say it, you're in the category of solar cooking maniac, like I am, where once you got the bug, you didn't stop. So name, rank, and serial number, and
Okay.
and your where did you start solar cooking?
Okay, my name is Mark Shook, and originally I'm from Colorado. And my kids came home from school one day. I was in my 40s, and they said, "We cooked hot dogs with the sun." And I said, "No, you didn't. It's impossible. That can't be done." And they said, got mad and said, "Yes, we did." And so we sat down and they showed me what they did. And so I hopped online and typed in solar cooking and found solarcooking.org. And
The best.
it was the end for me. I went out, and the first thing I did, put a cardboard box with some cellophane and tin foil and built a reflector and threw a pan in it. And I took a pork loin, a few potatoes and carrots, threw it in a black pan, tossed it in the cardboard box, and said, "We'll see." And sure enough, at the end of the day, it was one of the most delicious pieces of meat I'd ever cooked.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And I instantly said, "Why don't we know about this?
Exactly.
Why doesn't everybody know about this?
Yeah.
Why isn't it in every home in America?" So I played with the boxes, and then I graduated up to a wooden one that's over there, double-walled wood, insulated it, and nothing made out of quarter-inch plywood, and some insulation laying around, and some flashing, and some glass, and built some reflectors, and that one would get to about 275.
Yep.
And worked great.
Yep.
Loved it. Used it for several years until I could afford to buy one, and I bought the solar hot pot used off Craigslist, and loved that one. I was a little impatient for that one. You know, the panel cooker's a little slower, and if you get the clouds, you know, it ruins your cook. And there's several times where I had to take it inside and finish it. And so I finally saved up and sprung for a sun oven. And I've always been happy with that, the amount of food it cooks. And and then got a tube cooker, a vacuum tube cooker, and then now the big boy. I wanted one of these from the first day I saw it online.
I think everyone that sees one, and
like, oh my God, from the restaurant business, I got to have this thing. And started calling Paul Munson. And no, we don't sell those. You can't buy one. And we're not selling them in America. They go to Africa and da-da-da-da-da. Then one day he called out of the blue and said, "Hey, I know you want a villager. There's one near you for sale." And I talked to the peoples in Boulder, Colorado. They were from New Mexico. They used it on a food truck to make empanadas.
Oh, wow.
In New Mexico. And they were in Boulder and wanted to sell it. They wanted 6,000. And back then the ovens were 10,000. And 6,000 was about all the money I had to my name in the whole world. And I thought, I can't blow all the money we have in the bank on a solar oven, no matter how much I want one. And I always thought, well, I could build it. I'll build a big, fancy solar oven on a trailer, you know, reverse engineered or something, you know, but that never happened. And still wanted one. Well, then a few years ago, my dad passed away and left us a little money. And I started in on the new, Paul sold out to the new people. And so I started emailing them and calling them once a month, almost 2 years. Until one day my phone rings, and it's the new owner of Sun Oven Trip, and he said, all right, I'll sell you the oven, but you're going to have to pay in advance, and you have to wait till it's made, 6 months. And he had 200 on order. And so he said, you can buy now and get in on the initial production, because we're going to do a run of 15 to get the process down. Or you can wait until after the 200 are built, which could be several years. And so I wanted one. And so I went ahead and put the money down and waited about 8 months total. And then it showed up. I think this is number one off of the production line, the new production line in North Carolina. So the first one. And it was delivered broken. You know, the shipping company didn't handle it well. And I had to, after all that wait, I finally got my oven and open up the truck, and it's just in pieces on the crate. And we were heartbroken, but called Sun Oven, and Tripp said, just send it back. We're not going to play this game. I'll fix it, and we'll do it right. So I refused the delivery, and they took it back, and about a month later, they had it rebuilt, and then he drove it personally. Him and his wife delivered it. And and showed up. Super nice people.
Sure.
Great.
So they brought it here on this exact trailer.
No, they had it up on a U-Haul.
Oh, okay.
And had it all strapped down and blanketed and wrapped in bubble wrap. And
Okay.
they wanted to make sure it made it.
Okay.
So you're going to get a working oven when we show up. But obviously, one of the first things I said, this trailer is not much good for it. And and they're not built for North America. This isn't made for me. This is made for our villages in Africa.
Yeah.
And this is plenty to roll it in and out of a building or storage or whatever, but not going down the highway.
Or to get it to the 15 miles down the road to wherever it's going to be, like permanently or something. Maybe. Right. Yeah.
And hence the hesitation to sell them in North America.
Yeah.
People pay that much money, they expect perfection and usability and, more of a temperamental customer.
Yeah.
And I had to assure them when I was going to buy it that I'm easygoing and I'm not expecting perfection. I just want to get one and get my, use it.
Sure.
And so they made sure my expectations were real.
Yeah.
That this isn't for this market.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that doesn't mean it can't be improved on. And,
right.
And already, more rain. I don't think that's even supposed to happen. But a few little things that we found that were maybe not engineered so well that I contacted them on, and they made all, as far as I know, all the changes that I've recommended since they went into number 2.
Sure.
And I don't know how many they've made since then, but over the year that I've owned this, almost a year now, he's called and said, hey, we switched the trailers out and we switched the crank out and we made more clearance here and we've changed the design on the clips and that hold the reflectors. And so very receptive to any kind of a change that I was recommending to make them more durable and just better overall. They weren't, when he bought the company, I don't think there was a big plan, a set of plans for the villager.
Sure.
He said basically one guy was building them and they had to kind of take one apart and figure out what was in it and make a material list and figure out how to make it.
Sure. So if they actually had one that they were able to take
They
apart?
had Munson's original demo unit.
Oh, okay.
That I'd been trying to buy for a long time.
Oh,
I kept telling Paul, what are you doing with the old one? And I don't care if it's had 1,000,000 miles on it.
We're thinking alike there. It's like,
And I called Trip to and I said, I'll take that old demo unit. I know you have it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's going in a museum someday. You can't have that one.
Oh, well.
We know where there's a museum.
Well, and being a proud owner of one that was probably somewhere in the middle well past the beginning, but well before this, I do notice a lot of really good similarities. I'm glad they stuck with them. I mean, the really solid base, the really solid, kind of the rocker arms thing. The crank arm sounds like the threaded rod. The bolt at the one end is maybe a little too tightly close to the frame, but that's
not much clearance. It clears, but you can crank it and you'll feel it as at first, and you just kind of have to get past one spot, and then it kind of rubs up and down. But I guess they switched the clearance on.
Sure.
I only need a 1/16 of an inch to clear.
Yeah, easily corrected, and they've taken care of that. And the door is way bigger than mine, and the flat side, you'd almost have to have the two side by side to know. Is this way better, or is it just a different arrangement? My sense is it's probably easier to get stuff in and out. As difficult as it may seem sometimes, being able to have that wide a clearance, you just feel a little more comfortable, sliding in a big tray and so forth.
I was skeptical of the flat door because in my mind with the rounded of the older ovens, I thought, well, if that whole thing opens, you wouldn't have to, this one, I feel like I need to crank it up to open the door and put stuff in. And I thought maybe with the older design, you could just open it up no matter what the tilt angle was.
I'm trying to think, when I did the state fair, I would tend to not really get anything cooking until maybe 10 or 11 in the morning. So it was already tilted forward, maybe a little bit back. And I had to have a ladder to get up and down because the trailer, John Liberté had it on, and Susan Newstetter. It's probably up another, maybe a foot. Bigger tires, wider. It was meant to hold 2 ATVs. Okay. So really, really sturdy. I mean, they got it for driving around the mountainy areas in the forests of Oregon. So, and put it on that trailer. But if this is what it comes with, it's a good minimum trailer to get it where it needs to go, and then, like you say, into and out of a shed or
As
something.
far as I know, number 2 came with a heavy duty trailer.
Okay.
A highway ready trailer with
Okay.
fenders and lights.
Sure.
So this one, and I had planned on switching this out to a different trailer.
Yeah.
But I think Tripp had mentioned that just use this and find any flaws and use it in the wind and don't be nice to it. Let's find the weak spots and we'll fix them. And then once they're caught up, he's going to switch me out with another one of the newer design.
So basically the beta tester.
Yeah. Yep. Which is right up my alley.
That's okay.
Yeah. Fine with it.
Yeah.
Plus I got my hands on it early.
Well, and that you're approaching 400 degrees, 200 Celsius.
Yeah, pretty regularly 400. Almost every time I've cooked, it runs right at 400 if you have it aimed.
I mean, so it's one thing that if they would have gotten anything wrong, where it would be a total deal breaker, no matter how much else was really good, if it didn't get up to that kind of temperature, especially you're talking, and describe what your food service business was before.
Oh, okay. Well, we do wood-fired pizza.
Yep.
Before that, I was barbecue.
Yeah.
Just wood-fired cooking in general. So I have big Italian wood, 3,000-pound wood-fired ovens.
Sure.
And so this was right up my alley for, big industrial smokers, big wood-fired ovens. And so this is a big, industrial size cooker.
Yep.
And we played around with pizza in this and haven't perfected it yet. Just haven't had enough time to really.
Pretty confident that you'll probably get there though.
Oh yeah, because I had one that was one of the best I ever
I remember
had.
you describing that, and it's all.
I described it as school lunch pizza because we're doing it on sheet pans.
Sure,
and I like to do the math and how many sheet pans can I fit, and how many slices, and how many per hour, and how much money can we make over the course of a day.
Yeah.
So the numbers on this crunch out pretty incredibly if it were the product I wanted to serve.
Sure.
So, I think I can run 3 large sheet pans, about 10 slices per, and kick them out about every 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So we're talking, 60 slices an hour, for example. So even at $5, talking $300 an hour at that rate. And if you're getting $7, $8, $9 a slice at a festival, it's exponentially from there. We ran it, I've only used it one time commercially. We made, and it was last minute. I was getting ready to make wood-fired pizza, and one of the vendors pulled out of lunch. And they said, is there any way you can make lunch too? And I said, well, I don't have enough dough to make pizza. So we had extra toppings. So we decided to do Italian nachos. So we just laid chips down, pizza toppings, mozzarella cheese, and threw them in. And I was doing 2 sheet pans at a time, 7 servings per sheet pan.
Yep.
And we knocked out 75 servings in an hour and a half. About every 12 minutes, I could switch the pans out and put in 2 new.
Sure.
So 12 minutes at 400 degrees to melt those nachos. Yeah. And we never had a line. We were kicking it out as fast as they were showing up. Nice. It was amazing. And so the first day we made $1,000. Yeah. So I thought, well, it's not going to take long to pay for itself if we can do those kinds of numbers.
Sure. And I'm thinking, and I'll keep this out of the video, but because it's a good thing, but is that when I do connect with the Tripps, is to say there might not be a market yet, but when you hear about California starting to prohibit new construction with the gas, New York City, new construction with gas, the old, they're grandfathered in, but eventually people are going to have to decide, how are they going to cook? How are they going to cook without gas? And wood is, I can't imagine, as much as everyone likes wood-fired pizza, where can you get all the wood to feed all the people?
It's labor intensive, and it's, it's expensive, and it's finicky. It's hard to do. You have to master that thing,
Sure.
Fires burn differently, and wood burns differently. It's a real bear to get it right.
Yeah.
So this, every time I use this, by not having to put wood or gas or electric, that's just more money in my pocket.
Exactly.
That I keep. So every time I use it, the more I use it, the more I get paid back.
Yeah.
And even though wood-fired oven has been paid for years, I got to go get the wood. Yeah. I have to sit there for 3 hours and tend it while it gets hot.
Yeah.
I have to constantly feed it as I work.
Yep.
It's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it was such a blessing with this just to point out at the sun, and I got to talk about it. Everybody gathered around, what's this thing? So I spent my day talking about the equipment and selling food other than throwing wood, feeding a fire, a never-ending hungry machine that I can't keep it hot enough. You know?
Right. It is a conversation starter.
Now, there is the conflict right now with states. You know, they want to go green, they want to go zero, but then they also want to regulate the food industry. You have to have NSF and blah, blah, blah. So there's kind of a conflict there between, you know, the state health departments and what the initiative is, the philosophy of the state to go green. So they're going to have to communicate and reconcile that this is okay. Now, the health inspectors I know don't care how you get there as long as you get there. You know, I had a health inspector who told me one time, I don't care if you light a fire on the concrete and hold your hot dog over the top. As long as that hot dog hits 165 and it's held properly,
You're not going to kill someone with botulism or something.
And so the same goes with this. Our local health department treats this like it's a smoker. You know, a wood-fired smoker. You know, they walk by and my gauge says 400 degrees. That's fine. They don't care. They don't ask what happens if the sun goes out. I do have a propane attachment, which I tell them if I need to, I can heat it with propane. And that's good enough. Or we would stop cooking and be done for the day. You know, I'm not going to serve cold, undercooked food. And that would be the same as if you ran out of propane in your food truck or your restaurant, or if you ran out of wood in your oven. You know, you'd have to do the same thing.
Well, so we are now, you and I, it's you, me, Susan Regali, New Mexico Solar Energy Association. Why do I keep thinking there's a fifth villager that I know about? Well,
it's got to be the one that was in Boulder, and I don't know where it ended up.
You know, if you could track down that guy, I could see if I can find him too.
I recently emailed the original owner because I went back 12 years. How long ago that was, and they just said it was sold, but didn't elaborate. But it's possible. I think I might even have the old owner's number that I just kept just in case.
If you could share it, great. You know, if not, no big deal. But
we might be able to track that one down.
I mean, as I mentioned yesterday, one of my goals is if as many of these villager owners in the States as we can find is, you know, just have kind of our own little. You know, it'll be like sharing tips on what if this part goes bad or whatever. I mean, if the trips, you know, bless them, hopefully they will be able to continue. And you and I will agree, hopefully we can market in the States. Maybe through producing more, the cost could come down. Maybe they could re-engineer it so it is lighter and the materials are less costly or something. But to just have people that would know how to troubleshoot, like why, you know, what if the worm gear goes bad or something? Is it something you can replace on your own if heaven forbid the trips, those 200 are the last 200 they built, you know? Which I can't believe that it would be, because there's an ever-growing demand for it across the world.
I think there is. I really do. And then potentially they could UL list these with a stainless exterior, interior washable, maybe thermostatically controlled backup on the propane. Oh, you set your temp at 275, and if you drop below that, it'll automatically ignite. And they could probably get a UL listing or an NSF listing that would make it commercial ready for states that don't recognize equipment.
And what is NSF?
National Safety. It's National Food Safety, but it's not quite that. But that's what it is. Most commercial restaurant equipment will be NSF, and it basically means it's stainless steel, it's cleanable. Refrigerator will have a switch that when you open the door, the compressor kicks on so that the temperature won't fall down and have to recover. It'll start recovering as soon as you little things like that make them NSF for
so that
food
might
safety.
Be one organization to glom onto with just to maybe started the conversation yesterday about it, because again, like folks like you, Susan Regali, the Le Presage folks who are using a Scheffler reflector and have totally bowled over whatever regulators they have in Marseille, France. They've built the foundation with all the approvals to have a totally solar thermal cooking restaurant, and it's long overdue here. And the amazingly, Los Angeles, which you'd think would be really cordial to more of a green thing, is just short of hostile from what I heard from Susan. Pat Brown, who's in Ventura, California, she actually joined into a discussion on one of the solar cooking groups about how some states are really good, where they're really relaxed about it and get it. But California has, apparently they have enough rules that they figure they have to follow that this doesn't fit into. And so they err on the side of, we don't want to worry about Los Angeles County hearing about a guy getting poisoned by a suicide villager, even though they let her cater to hundreds of people at a time with it because it's a private event, you know. So
you got to find the loopholes,
yeah.
Work your way around it.
Yeah. And,
sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yes. Well, and that's the current state of affairs for sure. And what I'm hoping to get to in a year or two is to build up a threshold where I'm thinking Hennepin County, where Minneapolis is, get a county board member for the area where I live, my city council member, who I know will be on board. The park board, I had 3 park board candidates when they came across this Open Streets event and the simplicity and everything. They're like, oh, tell me what to do. What can we do to get it into the parks? And by the time I got a hold of them, it was the staff that had to make the final decision for some reason. Neither here nor there. Being able to have those allies, and then the only one left probably would be like a state legislator to say, okay, let's all meet. Since you're all different government entities, it doesn't have to be an open meeting law thing where everyone and their uncle has to be there and and come up with a game plan to where we can make this happen, you know. And if you and Susan were interested in participating with me in a Zoom call about that, that would be fantastic. I don't know, I know some places to start, but at NSF, I hadn't even thought of that. One thing that has come up on the World Network is getting to the pot manufacturers. If you pull up the ones that are made for induction cookers, at least, and maybe a lot of them have them, they got a symbol for halogen, for gas, and then one for induction. They'll say this is good for induction. It's got the right stainless steel or the right steel alloy, what have you. And to be able to add a 5th or 6th one, that's just a sun symbol saying this is good. It works in a solar cooker, you know, which will be pretty much every pot or pan.
Oh, sure.
But to get it there would be just that one little extra talking about who knows about it, you know, almost knowing if they see that solar, well, what the heck, you know?
Well, that's what I was going to say, that the general public doesn't have enough knowledge about these yet to push from that end.
Yeah.
Except for that when they see it, the enthusiasm is through the roof.
Yes.
Once they open their eyes and say, golly, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Then they're all behind it. Yeah, let's check this out. It's amazing.
Yep.
You know, a lot of, unfortunately, these cookers, when they say, well, where do I get one? How much is it? And you go, well, that's $500. They go, I could buy a new indoor stove for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's the kicker for me is I look at our oven range combination with the hood that has a microwave in it, and I know I could cook 5 times as much in this with the sun. Yes, it's outside. Yes, it's a little different, but it's not that much different, you know.
No.
Especially when I think of like the parabolics. Oh, those are so dangerous. Well, you're a gas range. I work with the fire department a lot when in my city service, and they talk about the frat house that would start a couple microwaves with pizza in them, and then someone would say, hey, I just got tickets to the Vikings game. Let's go do some tailgating. And they'd all leave and forget about this and hit the wrong number, or they have it in the gas oven and it doesn't have an automatic shut off. And all of a sudden, you know, like half the frat house is burned down.
Yeah, we won't do that here.
No. I mean, this is...
You get home and it's probably still warm in there and your pizza's ready to go.
Yes. And probably hasn't dried out like you do in the convection. It's almost guaranteed to if you go too long. Well,
I come from, you know, the cooking background, restaurateur. I love to cook. That's the whole thing. I don't care what I cook in necessarily, but the bottom line is, how's the food?
Yes.
And frankly, you know, there's something about these, especially with stews, beans. You can't make dry beans any better than you can in the solar oven. Right. They make the best.
It's the on average a little lower heat, longer temperature. I don't know nothing about it except from what I've seen on the food channel. And then Joe Radabaugh mentions that in his book, where he had friends who were chefs, you know, certified cordon bleu or whatever, and the longer you can cook it at the lowest possible temperature, the better it's going to turn out. And that's what these you can fry, you can burn things on a parabolic.
You can burn these.
That's right.
In the sun oven, I've opened the lid where I hadn't stirred it, and the tops are brown.
Oh, sure.
And maybe not burnt, but overcooked.
Yeah.
But one of the things I talked with Tripp about this is that these tend to be marketed towards preppers, and when you need it, and if it's there, you know, you can pasteurize your water, and that's all great. But
Yeah.
I want it to make good food on a regular basis. And so I don't see enough chefs out there using one and bringing out foods that are restaurant quality. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do is let's make some food, you know, instead of focusing on the cooker, let's focus on the food. When people go, oh my God, this is great, then you can say, yeah, it's my solar oven that did the work. And maybe wake them up that way a little bit.
Well, and even with the prepping angle, I know I told Susan, maybe you were in the same conversation, Sarah Mitchell in Spanish Fork, Utah, LDS area, and they're really big into the prepping. And she told me she has dozens of neighbors that have solar cookers, and then the power goes out and they rush to her house. How do I use this thing? And her statement, I just love this. Is you should put it on like a coin or whatever, you know, when you cook with it every day, nothing is an emergency. What emergency? What's your problem?
And don't wait till you need it.
That's right.
You've got it. Use it.
And use it. By the way, how much have you paid for your gas through your range? Which, you know, compared to heating, like in Minnesota, compared to our heating bill, in fact, it's like 5% of our gas bill is for the stove. Wow. Another 5% is for the water heater, which of course it heats up 3-4 times a day, whether you use it or not, which is a big waste. So when you think about how much you've spent when you could have been, you know, in Spanish Fork, Utah, it's not quite, you know, Nevada or Arizona. It's the northern end there. They get their cloudy days, but they get a lot more sun than we get in Minnesota. I mean, they could easily. So when you talk about the cost of a cooker, when I started buying, I thought, well, you know, if I could, like the Sun oven was maybe $350 at the time I got it. I thought, well, for like $1 a meal, in 350 meals, how fast am I going to make them? You know, well, I could probably do that in 4 or 5 years if I put it out every time I can. And then after I got my 3rd or 4th cooker, I'm going, well, that'll never happen because I got to use it.
They're going to pay off.
Yeah. But what? So what? You know,
it's your passion. Who cares? People pay for their hobbies.
And for the average person is going to have the sport or maybe just the simplicity or whatever, and that'll be enough, and they can use it daily if they want.
We take ours camping. And I don't know how many times we've been set up in campgrounds cooking. And people come by, what is that? And you know, you welcome to the club. It's a solar cooker. I've never seen such a thing.
My first trip with solar cookers, I had made a bunch of the Halcyon models out of plywood, cardboard for insulation, lined that with aluminum foil, glass sheet at the top, and then brackets with reflectors. And average 280, 300 at the most. And I've got 5 in my car because I'm delivering to my wife's brothers and sisters because we got nieces and nephews. So I'm going to give them out. And I'm in one campground where I get to one place where it just doesn't quite work, and I bring it back to my site, and I'm just trying to cook fish, which is going to cook fast. And it's just the cloud starts to get a little bit too much. And the campsite next to me, oh, what are you doing? And it was a couple from Germany who were there for a NASCAR rally. And I said, oh, just use our gas stove. And I told them about it, and they said, you know, we heard about that. And they mentioned, what's his name? The guy with the EG Solar, or Bernard Mueller, I think. I don't know. They mentioned a name I was already familiar with, even though I was really new to this kind of stuff. So they're ahead of us there in Europe, getting the word out. But anyway, well, I'm going to do a little kind of walk around with 1 or 2 of these, and if we can just I don't know if let's do it. Like highlight what's really what you really like about it. I mean, it's obviously it's a keeper, and you're going to use it for
pretty much like everything, the way it cooks for sure, the size. The efficiency. Obviously. I feel like the big one, probably because of the size of the reflectors, maybe heats up. Well, my pizza ovens take about 3 hours to get hot.
Sure.
This tends to go up about 10 degrees an hour. Is that right? 100 degrees an hour.
Okay.
No.
That could be right. Good Sunday.
I think it's less than that. No, it's faster than that.
I'm just
well, now I can't even remember how fast it gets hot, but it's hot within about an hour. So 1 hour to 400 degrees is so much quicker than wood-fired. And granted, I go to 800 degrees in a wood-fired oven.
Right.
But 3 hours to get there versus 1 hour to hit 400 without doing anything.
Sure.
So I personally think it heats up fast.
And they've obviously done their homework from looking at the previous one where the metal, there's a gasket here. So it's not, so it isn't metal to something on the outside, which would drain the heat. That's why it's getting good heat.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this door is maybe a little thinner than yours. I feel like the older ones, at least in the pictures,
I think
maybe
you're
had
right.
more insulation.
Yeah.
This may be a little bit thinner.
In fact, I was going to break out my my tape measure, but I'm okay. One hand width.
And I can always measure it for you and send you the dimensions. But just I've never seen the original, but except for on video and pictures, and it seems like the door's thicker.
Yeah.
But this doesn't get hot, so they've got it amply insulated.
Yeah.
And probably a newer material, I had to guess.
Yeah.
Versus the older ones.
Mine does get hot just outside the door on a couple of spots where I'm sure, probably just from age.
Settling, maybe?
Settling, and when I drove it from Oregon, only about 1,500-mile trip with one of those bumps, and I think I'm sure I told Susan, or maybe I told you about the dog that ran out in front, and outside I had to brake and swerve, and I look back and the thing's bouncing on the wheels, but I'm thinking, oh man, I could have, and I thought, wait, boy, am I glad I had because for that cross country on the highway, that was the only way to go.
Oh yeah.
But I'm sure that probably shook a couple things loose. And anyway, yeah.
So as far as the function, I have no complaints.
Yeah.
It heats up quick. It turns easy. It cranks easily.
Yep.
Plenty of room for food. I think it looks cool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, when the reflectors are up, it's a spectacle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it draws people in like nothing else.
Yep.
I mean, I could stand there with my wood-fired oven and they'll walk by me all day. Nobody can walk by this.
No. Oh
Nobody.
no. That's a showstopper.
They have to stop and find out what it is.
Well, and the base, as I mentioned earlier, pretty much the exact same, probably the exact same diameter for the post and what it settles onto, and that little crank thing to lock it into place. I found that, well, of course, I'm driving it like maybe 15 miles to the state fair, and you get enough bumps, so that just kind of jars it loose a little bit. So I always put those ratchet straps on the corners, front and back.
Good idea.
And that's just a little extra security.
That's one of the design flaws here.
Yeah.
This crank will interfere. I can loosen it.
Yep.
And say tighten it, but if you come to rest where you need to
then
be
it's
there, then
Yep.
you can't tighten it down.
Yep.
And that's really only in high winds that I guess I would ever need to tighten it down, but they've already changed the design so it doesn't interfere with the feet there.
Maybe a little smaller handle, or maybe they push the post up a few inches. Probably about
I
3
would hope
inches is
that
pretty
the
good.
post would go up a little because you kind of need the leverage to get it tight.
Yeah.
Or you could put a socket on the outside and crank it down with the wrench maybe.
Yeah.
But I found out the hard way because it was windy, and I called Tripp. I said, it's windy. Should I set it up? Because use that thing. If it breaks, I give you a new one.
Okay.
But he wanted to know too.
Sure.
And so it was being moved by the wind. And so I went to turn it down.
Yeah.
I had it aimed, but I couldn't crank it down.
Yep.
And so without moving the trailer, which
I was
you have
about to say
level,
that's about the only other option at that point.
yeah. And you keep it leveled,
Yeah.
So once it's up, I'm not going to take these jacks out from underneath it.
No.
Not with this trailer.
Yeah.
If the trailer were more heavy duty, then you can probably do that.
Yeah. I got to get a couple of them for mine because I never have it quite level. It's never a big deal, but boy, I think it helps when you are cranking it just for the extra weight. If it is level, you got, I don't know if it's a thing with center of gravity or whatever, but
Well, and the tray on the inside too keeps level, so that if if your trailer's off level, then your food's going to roll to one side or the other.
Yeah.
So I try to get it pretty level.
Yeah.
And then you can film it from down here if you want. You can see I don't know if you.
Yep.
We're going the right way now. Here we go. So as we come up, you'll see it right here, and it just hits right there.
Oh yeah.
See that?
Yep.
And so there it popped out. Now I've got some clearance, but there's times when that just interferes. So they just need a little extra. And actually, now that I see that, I think I just saw the fix. What I need are some washers inside of this. It's held on by a pin. All I gotta do is put some washers behind it.
Oh, sure.
So I'll be able to fix that myself. That's funny that I've never paid attention.
Yeah.
And then I could actually a couple washers on the inside and the outside, and then I could get it exactly where I want it.
Oh yeah.
So easy fix.
Sure.
And also taken care of by the company on the other unit. But yeah, that's the first time I've watched that move.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I cranked it up, no problems. Other times I'm like, it won't go. What's going on? Well, now I know. It just needs spaced out better.
Yeah.
And then, you know, little things like rivet placing and things like that and bolt placement. But I think some of that was because they had to take it apart and fix it and put it back together.
Yep. Now, was this the one that arrived with this?
Yeah.
So they did fix it?
Because it was the only one.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So they would have had to start from scratch.
Sure.
You know, and they were just in the process of starting number 2.
Sure.
After they delivered this one. So they ran it back, tore it apart.
Yeah.
I think they put the whole crew on it because it happened quick.
Yeah.
Fixed all the things that were wrong and delivered it personally.
Wow.
So yeah, the same one rebuilt.
Yes.
So I expected some issues, you know, even they had smashed the flashing. And the flashing is wimpy to begin with, but it's functional.
Yep.
And as long as you're careful, will last forever.
Yep.
But that's really about it. Oh, there's an issue with the door that I told them about. As this door heats up, it swells.
Right.
And so, like now it opens and closes easily.
Right.
Once it gets hot, there's a little bit of an interference in there because the tolerance is real tight.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the times when I want to open the door, I got to stick a little screwdriver in there and just pop it out.
Yeah.
But they've changed that, and that could be an easy fix just by recessing these inner striker panels a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where it hits. It just won't release, and it'll try to grab.
Oh, sure.
You know, this will grab them. You can see it right there.
Yep.
And there's a little spot on this side, same thing and it's only when it's hot. It doesn't come close when it's cold. There's no way that an engineer would know that until they heated it up all the way and then tried to open it.
Yep. So it's definitely, and I know I mentioned it yesterday, the handles that lock in place like that, way better than the slide arm ones that go in kind of like it's almost like a, not kitchen cabinet. I don't
like
know.
A gate or
it just slides into another little thing. And driving from Oregon, I mentioned, you know, maybe 100 miles into the trip, I look in the rearview mirror and it's already dark out, but I can see something kind of flapping on the side of the cooker. I go, what the heck? Well, it was the door had jarred loose, and so.
Some of the little clips that hold, so the reflectors have the hinged secondary panel, and those are clipped into place when you close.
Right.
And they don't hold as you're closing, so you have to squeeze the. And I told Tripp about that, and he addressed it as well.
Yep.
You see like this, when I open, see how it starts to open up.
Yep.
Because those clips don't grab.
Right.
There is a clip there.
Yeah.
But it won't hold it.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful. Some of them hold.
Yep.
Some don't. I think 2 hold and 2 don't.
Sure.
So as you're putting it up, you just have to. You can see the clip down there on the.
Yep.
And it's just not grabbing.
Yep.
Not a big deal.
Yep.
But annoying, and for the North American market, it'll have to be addressed.
Yes.
Not everybody's going to be mellow about that. They're just it would break the glass, you know. As the reflector comes down, it could swing down and break the glass, and it's just I wouldn't trust people to do it right.
Yep. When I can say for my model, this is pretty much picture perfect, exactly like mine with the bracing or brackets, whatever, and then they've actually sealed out with looks like silicone. And this is good and sturdy, hard
heavy duty steel.
Yeah, that's kind of what it needs because they're very heavy. One of my thoughts was to reverse engineer one that's about a third this size, because my friend Rich, who started the Minnesota Solar Cookers Group, he's in a suburb that's kind of semi-rural, and one day he said, "Hey, there's this guy with a trailer, and it's about maybe half the size, obviously just for like garden tools or something. It's not meant to be, highway high speeds, but it would fit something about a third of the size of my oven, and it would be a 55-gallon drum. This is probably about half again at least larger than a 55-gallon drum." And then do it, and then instead of, this is like, I don't know what's behind here. I think it's like a what's that special chipboard?
Aluminum.
With the inside between the
like OSB.
Yeah. So that's the weight. I mean, the aluminum is that size will be somewhat weighty, but not as much as what's inside there, and that makes it sturdy to get out. But it makes it heavier too.
As I get older and older, I could see climbing up that ladder, and I won't be able to do it forever.
Yeah.
Might be nice. I've already thought about rigging some kind of a rope system where I could stand on one side.
Exactly. I have too. Yeah. Maybe even like in barns where they have the pulley at the top of the barn and then have a little rocker arm that just comes up here.
Yeah, something, because it's awkward to reach out there on a ladder and grab this thing while you're off balance and try to get it up. And same with going down. You don't want to fall, so you're extended out in an awkward position to drop it down. Yeah. Especially if you're by yourself, 2 people. Someone can stand here and grab it as it comes down and help you. Yeah. Yeah. But there's times when you need to put it down yourself. Yeah. And for me, setting up and putting it down at the state fair, it was just me. So sometimes I feel like, it's starting to go down. I can go. It's going to fling me over the other side. That's how I just try to hold as far as I can.
That's right.
Like, okay, hope for the best.
The other item that's pretty much the same, and you have got them to do this because I have that kind of silicone gasket thing, and it's got to be 10 years old, and it's practically powder. That's it. That's it. Pretty much the same.
Here's what it came with, and I kind of mocked him, like, really? This is what you're going to put here? Yep. It doesn't even stay. No. I'm like, what's... Yeah. I'm like, you might as well just take these with you. And about 3 days later in the mail, he sent these and said, there you go, that's better. And it is. That's a good fix there.
And this would be where your propane wand would go, right?
Yes.
But I suppose it wouldn't matter which side, because you got
well, it does, because this has this...
oh, right. Yeah, that's the bracket to hold it.
The bracket to hold the... and I can set it up real fast, so I got it out here. Yeah. So you put there's a chain.
Because that is the other feature that, for the cost, makes it worthwhile for what you're talking about, for commercial endeavors, where, okay, sun, let's say 2 out of 3 days, but that 3rd day, maybe not enough sun, you could resort to the LP.
Well, and when you describe a solar cooker to the general public, it's always the first question. With the little grin on their face and a twinkle in their eye.
Gotcha.
You can't cook on a cloudy day. Like they want to find a flaw.
Right.
And I say, well, it does have propane backup. Yep. And they go, oh.
Yep.
It's like they don't want it to work.
Yeah.
And then you just hook this to here.
Yeah. That tool looks pretty much exactly like what mine is like. My vent thing, I'm thinking now, my vent is, I think it's a little wider, and that's why I'm thinking the weight bearing tube is all I've got, and then that sticks into that.
And I can see where the secondary tube would help hold that heat.
Yeah, yeah.
Transfer it maybe a little bit better than a single tube. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, the wand would just go in the opposite side.
Okay.
I did use it one time just to try it out.
You can see there is some kind of fiberglass gasket or something, which isn't quite... Oh, yeah.
And that's it.
Yep.
Now, I will say, the reason I used it one morning was I woke up early before the sun was up, and I thought, I'll get it started. Get her, see how it goes. But the propane does not heat it up as fast as the sun does.
Really? Really?
I was up to it took me over an hour to hit 250.
Oh, wow.
And then the sun popped up, and I turned it off and pointed it, and straight to 400.
Wow.
So while it does work, it's not as efficient as the sun.
Wow. Wow. And that actually is kind of parallel with the Fusion, because when it's focused correctly, it should be in the 350 to 400 range, but it won't get more than about 250, they say, with the heating element going. Enough to cook, and like if it's 2/3 cooked and the cloud rolls over, you plug that in and maybe it'll come down from whatever it was, but it'll start to maintain
finisher,
cooking
at least.
Yeah.
And I see why they're trying to do that. They're trying to market it for everybody. The stove that does everything. Yeah. And it's a shame that has to be the case, that people don't seem to want to accept them for what they are, and just that you use it when it's sunny.
Yeah. Well,
But
we're spoiled here. We gotta have a AAA quality stuff.
That may change naturally someday.
Well,
and just learn to use it for what it's designed for. But for me, you know, we get lots of sunny days, and if it's not sunny, we cook a different way.
Now, do you have an extra? Is there an extra piece that goes on the end there?
No,
that's it. Okay.
That's it. Just
I wonder if that might be part of the issue, because mine came with a thing. It must have been 8 inches long. You know, like a big thick sausage, with vents off the side that screwed into something like that. So go about maybe about as long as that wrench, maybe a little shorter, and then just wider than that by half an inch or something across. And then just vents all the way around, so the gas would actually. Here you might just have the one flame doing this, whereas this one would heat in all directions.
Break it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little sketchy. Put lightning in it. I thought it's just a piece of pipe with gas coming out.
Yeah.
But it lit okay and it worked. But I wondred about it.
In fact, I'm looking for that thing because I brought it to our community school garden, Lindale School Garden, where they have a garden with the kids and the parents maintain it. And so I brought the villager there with all this stuff, not expecting to use it because it was supposed to be a full Sunday, which it ended up being. And that attachment was, I'm pretty sure it was on it, but somehow it wasn't on it by the time I got home. I don't know if someone stole it or if it fell off from bouncing around the city streets. It's only like 3 blocks away, but...
Well, Trip may see this video and go, hey, that's supposed to have that piece on the end. I don't know, you know. I'd be curious.
Well, once you give me his contact, we'll connect and we can do like a 3-way email, so just we're all on the same hymnal, you know.
Yeah.
And I wish I could find it, but I described it to someone. They said, "Oh, I think they call that a whatever." And I Googled it, and I couldn't find anything like it. But
it would almost be like a diverter baffle or a heat, dispersal. It's gonna, it's gonna make it more even. Instead of just a flame shooting out, it's gonna hit the end. And it's gonna come out all the way around.
Yep. And this only if it stops at that. I'm sure mine goes in further too. So if it like hit the center of the pipe, then it would evenly heat across.
This will go in, but it's got so much new paint on it.
Oh,
you have to shove it in there, and I've been reluctant to scratch it all off and make it fit in and out smoother.
Sure.
But I just shoved it in until it's comfortable and lit it, and it seemed to work. But like you say, maybe it would be more efficient with the baffle, or if I could get it in a little bit further.
Yep.
I'm not the type that's going to probably use it much. I'm not. No, I need it. I'll fire up a charcoal grill or something.
I have never used it, and I'm disappointed that was within a few months of me getting it. I got it in September, October, 2020, and then it was that following spring when they had the community garden going, and they said, "Well, let's feed people," and I didn't actually ended up not putting anything in this because I had like 8 other cookers that just kept cooking away, and I didn't have enough to put on myself. And the one woman says, "Well, with this SK14, will it do soup?" I said, "Well, if you got soup, yeah, I got it. It's a frozen soup." Going, let's see, it's about 2 o'clock, but it's gonna be full sun. People are gonna wrap up around 5. They'll probably thaw it in an hour, start boiling in about another half hour, and she brought it in, and it was like frozen right up to the top of the pot. So, oh man, don't anyone touch this cooker. And I'm trying to refocus it without tipping it, and it worked. It was just when people were done, it was starting to come to a full boil.
Way to test your unit.
Yes. And it was full. It was pre-cooked, so it wasn't like a worry about cooking long enough. It was just getting up to a boil, so people could see and the sheer volume of it. But.
Well, one of the reasons I bought this too was in a grid down scenario, lose power, lose gas, whatever. This is big enough. I live in a small town. I could cook for everybody. And in that type of a situation, having something like this, people could bring me a leg of deer. We cook it, and I get a slice off of it. You use my equipment, and
a small deer in here.
Yeah, you could just roast the whole thing. Yeah, you could probably put a pig in there.
Half a rack.
Or we can purify water if we have to, or whatever. So as a survival tool, it's nice to have. It's fun just as a passion and a hobby and a business, but also in a survival situation. It's perfect. So it hit on all the cylinders, and I never cared what it cost. I want one, and we're going to have fun with this thing.
Well, and the last thing I can think of, I don't know if I mentioned it yesterday, but the nice thing about the lower trailer is, of course, now it's the lower center of gravity. And I'm not sure that I think my wheels aren't that much further out, because that's the trouble. This is probably, I calculate it's probably 600 pounds. So this is probably weighing way more than the trailer.
Shipping weight was a little over 1,000.
Okay.
They thought about 1,000 pounds total with the unit and the trailer, and probably all the gear. That it comes with a lot of accessories.
Yeah.
It just totes full of accessories. I mean, everything you could think of, even the dolly to move the trailer around came with it.
Yep.
So.
I finally got a dolly. In fact, because I'm storing it in my mom's garage, and she's got the 7 by 14 foot door or whatever, and it barely gets under it, but it's facing the driveway, and I have to pull it out onto the alley. And so when I hook it up to the car, I've got to just be really precise so I can get out far enough without scraping on the side of the garage door, and then get it down to the alley. Well, if I can jock it out with that and then put it where I need it for the car to latch it onto, that'll be way easier. I haven't had to do that yet. I was hoping to try it out for the fair, but then, like I say, that didn't work out. But
I'm kind of leaning towards buying an enclosed trailer, like just a 6 by 12.
Sure.
That I could roll it up in on a ramp.
Yeah.
Because I like it stored inside. I don't want it sitting outside weathering.
Yeah.
So I store it inside anyway, and if I had that little trailer, then I could de-ring it to the floor.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about the wind hitting the thing or the rain. I could haul it down the highway, and when I get there, unhook it and roll it back out to cook on. And then you can store, you make it sleep in there while you're there, whatever, inside the trailer, you know.
Yeah.
You could double duty, but that way I've got storage. Right now I keep it in a shipping container, and it's kind of a bear to get in and out of there.
Yeah. Are you just doing it manually with the dolly? Or are you?
I push it around manually with the dolly, but to get it in the container up my driveway, I'll hook it to my Jeep and pull it around.
Yeah.
But I rolled it down by hand.
Yeah.
I had gravity on my side. It rolls pretty well. It's a little bit back heavy, so it likes to lift up and pull really.
It's like, oh man, I'd be more comfortable if it were another maybe 6 inches.
Another 6 inches forward, it would be more on the tongue than on the back. So it's they definitely tried to move it forward, but not quite there.
Well, the New Mexico Solar Energy Association, I don't know if I told the story. Maybe you were in it when I might have told Susan. They had one of these. They used it at all their events, and they loaned it to a school. And then overnight, thieves stole the trailer. They tried to pull it out of the gate, but the reflectors were open because it's Albuquerque, and you just don't think about rain until you hear, And they pull it out, and the reflectors caught on the fence, so they backed it out, and apparently somehow tipped it over and knocked it off of the trailer because they just wanted the trailer. And so this thing goes flying down, and the reflectors are bent. This was all cracked up. They had to replace a lot of the boards, and they didn't do this to it. In fact, my worry was that it did have all this kind of stuff sealing it up, but that they just wanted to quick get it back in operation, which they did, and it was getting it up to 300, a little over 300. They just warmed up a bunch of tacos with their kind of rebirth thing. And if you read, it's Andrew Stone was the guy. Okay. You can look up and see what he talks about. He's a maniac too, like us. He's a brother.
Once you get the fever, it's hard to.
Yeah. But
I'll just say criminals are idiots.
Yeah.
Stealing a beautiful piece of equipment, you want the stupid trailer. Why don't you steal an empty trailer?
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't that great of a trailer. I mean, it was if it was one that came with the originals back when it was first made. I swear, it just looks like a ping pong table that they added the wheels to, and so they didn't know what a beauty they were.
What kind of damage they were actually doing.
Yeah, or if they would have said, "Gee, that thing, I know how much that,"
Yeah, didn't even look to see what it is.
No.
And people don't get it. It's almost like hidden technology.
Yeah.
It really is. It just should be mainstream.
Yeah.
Should be our first go-to choice.
Yeah.
The first thing you do is it nice? We'll cook outside.
Yeah.
And then move to your second option. It's not just secondary. My stove is broken. Maybe I should go cook outside. No, just every day.
I made a connection with a woman who is a member of the American Solar Energy Society, which I ended up thinking, well, if I'm ever going to get a real museum in Albuquerque, like I hope to someday, I better make connections. And I joined up as a life member, and she is with some certified group of like passive solar homes, buildings, build it, and she has all sorts of home designs that she shows. You know, if you want to build one of these, we can send the right people over and whatever, where we are in the country. And I said the next wave should be installing solar cookers in them, or make it, even if it's just saying, you buy a house from us, we'll get you a sun oven or whatever, do something like that. But she's very interested in trying to figure out how to install one. And so November is when she'll have some time where I can get her hooked up with a couple other people in Albuquerque that are passive solar architects, like Mark Challam. He's one of my video interviews.
So
just
Taos
incredible.
has the Earthship biopicture.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd fit right in there.
Yeah.
And those people are building their homes anyway. They could easily incorporate an oven on the side.
Yeah, yeah.
If they know about it,
Yeah.
you know, and we know about passive solar, obviously, and so it fits directly in with what we love anyway.
Yeah.
You know, our house is so efficient. We say the same thing. Why aren't all houses built this way?
Yeah.
If they're all built like this in every subdivision, you'd look south and you'd see a grassy knoll for your neighbor.
That's right.
And they wouldn't even see any other houses.
That's right.
Everybody'd be in their house and they'd be private with nothing but grassy hills in front of them. And instead we got ticky-tack boxes all clumped together and windows looking at each other's houses, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, we can run this place for $50 a month on gas, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's just to heat and easily incorporate a solar hot water tank on there and have a zero bill. I mean, that's ultimately the goal.
Well, and that was the other item I brought up with her is a guy I met at the Boulder conference, ACES conference, passive solar builder, and for everything, homes, commercial office buildings, warehouses, light industrial, whatever. And I said, you know, the big market, right? I think you guys should try to exploit, figure out how to do it. I've got an 1899 fixer-upper in South Minneapolis. That's when they were building houses as the city was expanding. No thought to solar, you know. But we got the widest part of the house is facing south, and we fortunately have a 10-12 pitch roof, which is nearly 45 degrees, which is our latitude, which they say is what you want to do, to just pin it to the wall or to the roof. But to retrofit it so it'd be passive solar, I want to do that. My neighbor's house is just far enough away where it might shade part of our foundation in winter, but we still get sun in our dining room, our living room. So there's got to be a way. If I have to poke a hole in the wall in the living room and put, like Mark Challam has, this big granite slab on the other side.
Trom wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Trom wall the south side and let that sink in, or even the hot air traps where the hot air rises and comes in through the vent and the cold air goes out, and you just circulate that.
And we redid our roof as metal, where they did incredible insulation, redid stuff, and our thought was, okay, well, our gas bill should go down. Well, it doesn't. Our gas usage goes down, but then it goes up. The rates go up no matter what, and so we're paying about $240 a month for gas. It's over the top.
Gosh.
And we're at the point where we've started to price out heat pumps, and we actually had a bid from one company, and we said, oh, we're just this close, but I couldn't figure out the IRA thing where it's income dependent how much of the credit you get.
Oh.
And so stupidly I put it off. I should have just said, let's just sign and figure that out later. But next spring we're probably going to pull the pin.
I just got the quote for a heat pump for here.
Sure.
Well, the new heat pumps are finally efficient in cold weather.
Yeah,
you know,
that was the thing.
That didn't work at 0 degrees, and what good is it?
Yeah, and our conundrum was we had 7-8 years before installed a brand new gas heater, forced air, brand new water heater.
90-some% efficient.
Yeah, and so it's pretty good, but it's still, 240, come on.
That's insane.
Yeah, and so he said, if we install it and you say below, it was either 5 below zero or 15 below zero, then it wasn't as efficient as gas. And I said, can we set it up so that blows in until that happens, and then turn it off and turn on the gas? They said, yeah, they do that all the time.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, that'd be worthwhile, because then we wouldn't have the gas on for 98% of the time, because we'll have a month where it's below zero, but not below 15 below zero.
Sure.
We might have a week we had a 1 week where it was like the high was like 20 below zero and the low was in the 35, 40 range. But that's so rare,
Right. Well, and our house is so efficient that we can use a smaller heat pump to designed for 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And it'll heat 2,500.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
Exactly.
losing anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just getting, a few candles in a room will warm a room up eventually
Yeah.
in this house, or cooking on your stove will heat the house up. So a small heat pump is all we really need to take the chill off.
Yeah.
Our house won't get below about 63. It could be 40 below for a week straight, and we're still going to be sitting there in there at 63.
Yep.
And on a sunny day, we'll go straight to 80. I only need to cover. This house heats up extremely fast.
You got to open windows on when it's, jeez.
Yeah, and actually we'll have to close the window because it's too hot.
Yeah.
In the wintertime. Be 40 degrees below zero outside, and we're 80 inside with the doors and windows open, sweating.
Yeah.
But if it's cloudy, 63 is too cold for my wife, and I don't want to wear sweaters all the time. So we run wood stove, but once again, as I get older, I don't necessarily want to be going up to the barn to get wood in the middle of the winter, and a little heat pump would take the chill off until the sun comes out again.
Just set up a little conveyor belt,
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Okay, well, this is good. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.